What's cooking, Timberwolves? Now, this last weekend was Mother's Day, and so I hope that you guys did something special for your moms. But if you happen to forget, these recipes this week might actually help you out. Okay? So for this week, we're going to focus more on vegetarian options and some healthier options as well. All right? We can't all just eat all of the baked goods during this quarantine. We got to mix it up as well. So my recipe today is going to be black bean burgers. These are really, really good. I know some of you guys are like, oh, black beans. You do not taste the black beans if it makes you feel any better. They come together really well. They bake or they grill really, really well. And you can freeze the leftovers. So it's one of those recipes that you make a bunch of. You can freeze them, you can take them out throughout the summer, and they're awesome. All right, so let's get started. So this recipe does come from Sally's Baking Addiction. If you haven't seen that website, it's awesome. It's so, so good. I do a lot of recipes from there just because they're tried and true and her instructions are really easy. But I am gonna make them gluten-free for me. And even though the recipe does call for an egg, you can also alternate and use something else as a binder. So you could use an egg replacer to make it truly vegan. And my assistant's back over there. Okay, so to start off with, I'm gonna make sure that I've got all my equipment out. I will be using knives this one, so if you have not seen my knife demo, you have to make sure you watch it first prior to this. Just watch it, make sure that you're good to go for knife safety, and choose a good cutting board and a good knife that's sharp and ready to roll. Okay, so I'm gonna wash my hands. My assistant is very excited. So after I dry, actually the very first thing I'm gonna do is preheat my oven because we are going to be baking these these beans. Now I am just gonna be using a can of beans just like this. They're super easy to get at the grocery store. They range from like $1 to, this one's organic, so I think it was like $2.50. But black beans are an amazing source of protein. They're really easy to use in lots of different recipes. Yeah, they're really versatile. They take on a lot of great flavorings, especially like Mexican or even like barbecue sauce, like all of that stuff. So they're actually a really great item to eat. Okay, so I've opened up my can. I am now going to rinse and drain. So I'm going to put this in here, and black beans come in this like soup, okay? And we don't want the soup, so please, 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 you have to make sure that you do this stuff. I'm gonna just taste my colander. I'm gonna rinse. Under medium room temperature water, doesn't really matter. And I want to do this until I get most of the substance that was around, like the preservative that was around it, is off. And I'm just going to take a paper towel and just blot it. Okay. All right, so I'm going to put this onto a baking sheet or pan. I would probably use a pan because it's got edges to it. And on parchment, just so I can bake it. And I'm going to preheat my oven to 325 Kim backed or 350 bake. Okay, so I'm hoping that that will preheat pretty quickly because everything else will come together pretty fast. So I will be baking these and then I'm going to be mashing them, which is why I need a second bowl, not just one. Okay, so that one's over here. And I will wait for my oven to go off for that. In the meantime, I'm going to get my vegetables and everything that I need to get chopped up, ready to roll, and I'm gonna put it into my large bowl. I have half a cup of pepper, which is gonna be half a pepper. So if you don't have a red pepper, you can use any color pepper, it really doesn't matter. And then I will be using half of an onion as well. Now, if you do not wanna cry from chopping up an onion, put it in your fridge. When when it gets cold, the scent doesn't come out as much when you chop it up. If you have an onion that's at room temperature, you're much more likely to cry when you're chopping it up, okay? All right, so I'm going to start with my red pepper. And I am using a large serrated knife, but what I would recommend for you guys, because not everyone has one of these, is of course a chef's knife. Okay. So I'm just gonna cut the half of my pepper off of its stem. I used this for a recipe last night. And again, I want to make sure that I've got a good, flat, stable surface. Okay, so I'm going to take my red pepper and I'm actually going to spread it out like this, and I'm just going to slice it. And what I would like to do for this recipe is dice it. Okay, so very first thing I do is slice. And then I'm going to take it to the side and I'm going to dice it into smaller pieces. So you want these to be like squares. And of course my hands are curved in. I'm doing my claw in an effort to make sure that I do not cut myself. And you want to make sure that your chunks are pretty even and you don't have huge chunks. If you are not a huge fan of pepper, I mean, you don't need to include it in the recipe, but it does taste good when you cook them. You could replace it with something else if you wanted. Eggplant, zucchini, you could shave and put in here. Anything like that. So again, I've sliced this and now I am going to dice. And I'm letting my knife do the work. Okay, so these are all pretty even. And I'm going to put them into my bowl. I will be sauteing these, so these will soften. And I'll add great flavor. Okay, so for my onion, I only need half of it, so I'm going to slice it in half. Okay, I'm using that for another recipe. So I've got my onion. What I'm gonna do is chop off my ends. And this will make it so that I can peel it really easily, and I'll take off the top layer. And this is a white onion, but I've made this recipe with sweet onions as well, and it's really good. If you don't have onions, you can also use shallots. I haven't tried it with leeks, but I'm sure you could do that with that as well. All right, so I want to mince this up. So what I'm gonna do again is I'm gonna finely slice it. My goal is to kind of keep it in place so that when I turn it, and I'm just following the roots. So if you'll see there's lines to your onion. If I turn it, it all stays in place, okay? So because I've done really fine slices, I should be able to mince this one shot. And if I miss pieces, so if they start to fold and it all kind of goes haywire, what I can do then is I can just go in afterwards and mince them up. And I might actually use a chef's knife to do this, because for this, chef's knife works a little bit better. I don't mind bigger chunks of onions, so I'm okay with it. But if you are a little bit pickier and you do not like onion chunks, then definitely take your chef's knife, get 2 fingers on top, and just go back and forth. And again, you want them kind of uniform, well, not kind of, you definitely want them uniform in size. Some peel. Perfect. If you're scraping, you always go down on the knife, never up. And I'm just gonna lift this and scrape it off into my bowl. Okay, so my oven is almost ready, but it's taking a little bit longer to preheat. So this I will be sauteing, so I'm just gonna put it by my stove top. Wash my hands. And I'm actually gonna start to get some of my dry ingredients together, just so that it's easy at the end to put everything and just go. And I also will need to grate my cheese too. So get that ready to go. I am done with my knives, so I am going to put my knives, of course, by my sink so that they are ready to wash, not in my sink. Okay, so for my dry ingredients, I will be using my smoked paprika. I'll be using my salt. I will be using cumin. I do not have garlic powder, which is really weird, but I do have actual garlic, so I'll throw in a little bit more of that. Although we do also have garlic in like 1 clove of garlic in the saute mixture, so I might be fine without it. But I would totally say, like, if you've got garlic powder at home, use it. I just don't typically use garlic powder. I think I usually, if I can put chopped garlic in it, I will, okay? Love my garlic. All right? And then I've got my breadcrumbs. So I've got gluten-free breadcrumbs. If you do not have breadcrumbs at home, you can use a lot of stuff to substitute it. So first off, you can take cereal that you guys have. Just try to make sure it's not like Frosted Flakes or anything super sweet like Fruit Loops. You'll put it into a Ziploc bag, take your rolling pin and just grind it out. And you can easily make 50 milliliters. You really only need to take like a very small amount in order to do it. I would probably double it with the, so I'd probably do like half a cup or 125 of the cereal and then grind it. You could do cornflakes, you could do any number of cereals that do not have sugar on them. The other option is take oats. So you can also take some oats and put them in your blender and just use that, or you could just use the chunks of oats. So if you do not have breadcrumbs, do not worry. You can definitely use other stuff. The other option, of course, is to take old bread, toast it in your oven for a bit, and then just grind it up. And again, that is literally breadcrumbs. Okay? So I'm gonna take my 50 milliliters. I'm gonna put it into my bowl. Along with, sorry, my cumin, and it is 5 milliliters, okay? I love cumin. If you do not have cumin at home, you do not need to add it, but honestly, it's an amazing spice, so I would highly recommend it if you've got it. This is not good, so let's try this. Pull it off. And I'll put that back in. Cumin is just like a sweet and spicy, oh, so good. And then I've got my smoked paprika, which I only need a milliliter of. And it calls for salt, a pinch of salt and pepper. So again, it's usually typically 0.5 to 1 milliliter. So I'm just gonna do 5 of that. And I'm just gonna do fresh ground. Just so I got my dry ready to roll. Okay. While I'm waiting for my oven to preheat, I am going to maybe grate some cheese. And I am going to use the exact same cutting board as before because I am putting it all together, and I don't mind having that onion taste. Onion tends to permeate into everything, okay? So if you're really worried about that, you can switch cutting boards, but I'm not too worried. And you only need 50 milliliters for this one. Yeah, 50 milliliters. So So you can put any type of cheese in this one. I am just gonna put my cheddar, my tried and true lactose-free cheddar. Feta is a really good one in this one. You can put mozzarella, you can put whatever, okay? You can even get fancy and do 2 different types of cheese or like a jalapeno Havarti. So good. Some of you guys are coming up with amazing combinations anyways on your own, so I have no doubt that you guys will be fun. The last thing I'm gonna add is the egg, but I'm gonna wait on that, okay? So, got all this, good to go. I'm gonna hopefully be able to put these in. I'm at 318. So for the sake of this, I am gonna jump the gun, and I am gonna put it in. I'm like 4 degrees away. Okay, so I'm gonna bake this. I think for 10 minutes. I think that's what the recipe said. Get it together, Ms. Martins. 12. Okay. So I am actually gonna set it for 10. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna stir around the beans at the 10-minute mark, just to make sure they're flicked and not just like burning on one side. Basically what you're doing is you're drying them out and baking them. So they are gonna change color. So if you do see that they're lighter in color, don't freak out, okay? That's normal. All right, in the meantime, I've got my saute that I would like to start cooking. I am just gonna use olive oil spray, but if you do not have olive oil spray, you're gonna do 5 milliliters of oil in there in your frying pan to make sure that it's not stuck. And what we're gonna do basically is we're sauteing onions and peppers. So the biggest thing with sauteing you wanna make sure you do is you don't burn your onions. You want them to be translucent. So what that means is that you can see through them. And that usually takes about 3 to 4 minutes. And there it is. Your goal is just to soften these items because even though you are going to be cooking the patties later, you're not going to have enough time to fully cook through your onion and your pepper if you were to leave it raw in your patty, okay? So I'm going to spray a lot, so I would have needed 5 milliliters. I'm going to turn my stovetop with my frying pan onto medium heat, okay? Don't want to go above that. I will wait for it to heat up and I will put in my water for my sizzle test, and that's when I know that I need to start cooking my stuff. I don't know if I added it in my recipe, but I will be using a wooden spoon for this one. You do not want to do metal on metal, especially if it's non-stick, because you don't want to scratch it, okay? Black bean burgers are really, really great, not just as burgers. So if you make, say like a salad, you could always put a burger on top or a patty on top. If you make any of the like goddess bowls, you know, where you add in a whole bunch of stuff and you need like a protein item, so say you have like spinach or carrots or anything, you can always add one of these patties as well, and you can just bake it or put it in the microwave to heat it up and cook it, and then add it in with your favorite dressing. Honestly, they're super versatile and really good. So please do not let the amount of veggies or the fact that they say black bean in the title dissuade you from making these. These taste really, really good, okay? Yeah, they're just delicious. Don't know what else to say. All right, so my frying pan is heating up. I can see that my oil is darkening in color, so I do want to make sure that it does not burn. It's not sizzling yet, but it is bubbling, so I think it's almost there. And we've got sizzle. So I'm gonna add my peppers and my onion. And I'm going to be reusing this bowl for when my mixture is done. So I'm just gonna put this back aside. So I'm just gonna stir this to coat all of my peppers and my onions in my oil. And then I'm gonna let it sit, okay? Again, a lot of you guys like to mix it around, just let it cook, all right? you'll start to smell the amazing onions. And again, you might see some steam coming off, that's fine. What you don't want to see is smoke. So if you start to smell that it smells burned, we got issues, all right? So these onions will change color. So right now they're white. They will go more of like a cream color, if that makes sense. Oh, and I forgot my garlic. Let's try that. So with the garlic, what I would probably do is crush it and put it in if you've got a garlic press, or I would mince it with your knife and put it in. I have pre-crushed garlic only because it's easier for me. We make garlic bread and a whole bunch of stuff and we use that all the time. So that's what I use. And I just put a spoonful in. And now it's really starting to smell good. So if you can see it's starting to change colors. I mean, the red pepper is definitely helping out with that. But it is starting to get almost like lighter and less solid looking, if that makes any sense. And again, the steam is totally normal, okay? You just want to watch out for smoke. So I'll let it sit probably for about 2 more minutes. To really cook through. In the meantime, my beans are looking great. They are cooking away, and I will get my flipper just to make sure that I can take a look at those. I'm just gonna actually rinse out this bowl just to make sure I don't have any raw. So for the beans, I'm actually going to use a potato masher to mash them up. But if you do not have a potato masher, you're going to take your utility fork, sturdy fork, and you're just going to mash them. And it's not going to take very long at all. It comes together really, really fast. And you're good to go. As far as seasonings go, if you want to put in other seasonings like curry or anything else, you totally can. I would just watch what you're mixing with barbecue sauce. You want to make sure that the flavors really meld together really well. So because I am using like a basic barbecue sauce, I'm just going to stick to my smoked paprika and my cumin because I know that those flavors are already in the barbecue sauce. If you were doing ketchup, you could probably add other flavors as well, okay? Paprika being one of them, or if you wanted to add more like onion or trying to think about stuff that you guys might have at home. My pantry is always stocked. So again, curry, you could probably put that with it. Anything like tomato pasty you could probably put in too. Honestly, endless. Like if you don't like the flavors that I've used, change them. Okay, you guys are now at home right now, so you guys have options. Alright, my onions are translucent, so you can see that they are like see-through, basically, and they are lighter in color, okay? So again, it's like almost cream color, I would say. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my frying pan. And I'm going to transfer this to my bowl. Until this cools down to wash it. All right, so to this bowl, I actually gonna add in my cheese so that it starts to melt. Start to get some of my other ingredients that I will be adding in as well. So I will be doing Bullseye Bold Original for mine, only because I know that I can handle this as far as what the ingredients are. But you could use any barbecue sauce, or you could put in like even some sriracha or some hot sauce if you wanted, if you can handle a lot of heat. Like I said, ketchup is an option. Basically, you just want a liquid to kind of hold it together with the egg. So as far as burgers go, you always want to make sure you have a binder. So my binder is going to be my egg, my barbecue sauce, and then my Worcestershire sauce. I ended up having to make my own Worcestershire because it usually has gluten in it. So this is mine. But hopefully you guys have that. And again, if you guys don't have it, you can always use something else, like use more barbecue sauce, okay? Don't feel like you're tied down because you don't have certain things in this recipe. So for my egg, I'm actually gonna add it last, and only because I don't want it to cook. So I'm gonna grab my, awesome. So these are my beans. So again, you'll have a lot of them that have changed color and kind of broken open, and that's totally fine. For you guys, what I would recommend is that you do put them in for another 2 minutes. I'm not going to, just for the sake of, again, this demo. So I'm just gonna stick with these ones. A lot of them are really, really well baked. So I'll be fine, I'm not too worried. Okay, so I've got this. I am now going to transfer it. Let's roll it again. Okay, so I'm gonna take my parchment. I'm gonna make like a funnel. I'm gonna make sure to hold my end up so it doesn't spill out. And I'm just gonna transfer my beans. And if I was to bake these black bean burgers afterwards, what I would actually do is save this parchment so that I can bake them. I am going to be freezing mine, so I'm actually gonna save this parchment no matter what, because I'm gonna freeze them onto this parchment when I do my patties. Okay, so it's gonna come in handy. All right. So I'm gonna take my potato masher, and I'm actually gonna start mashing up my black beans. And I do still want some bits of beans. I do not want it to be pureed, okay? And again, you would use a fork if you do not have a potato masher. And if you smell these beans at this point and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to eat this, trust me, it's not going to taste like this, okay? Your black beans are being used as a protein source and just as like foundation, right? You would never just eat flour and be like, I'm never going to eat this, to a baked product. Okay, so I'm going to transfer this. And I'm going to start to mix, and my cheese has already started to melt, which is awesome, because it'll help stick everything together. And to this, I'm going to add my Worcestershire sauce. And I'm going to do my tablespoon or my 15 milliliter of barbecue sauce. And my breadcrumbs. So this is 5. 10, I don't know if you can hear my kids. They're playing in the other room. All right, so I'm gonna give this a good mix. The last thing I'm gonna put in is my egg. And again, I wanted it to cool down just a little bit before I added my egg because I don't want my egg to cook. And I will be shaping this with raw egg in it. So please make sure that after you shape these, you are washing your hands. I'm gonna make sure I mix this. Oh, it smells so good. I know you guys can't smell it, but it smells amazing. And if you find that the consistency is too wet, you can add more breadcrumbs. If you find that it's too dry, you can always add another egg or more barbecue sauce. Either one works. Okay, so I'm actually finding that this is too wet, so I'm actually gonna add some more. I'm just gonna wash my hands. I'm actually gonna add some more breadcrumbs. And I'm only gonna do a small amount at a time that I'm gonna add. Trust me, these breadcrumbs go a long way. So I'm just adding in 4 milliliters. Much better. Okay. So I'm gonna take my stuff, my patties, and I'm gonna start to form them. And you should be able to get 4 patties from this. If you wanted to do like really, really big ones, you could do that. But what I always recommend with anything like this is always start smaller. Just because you don't want them to break apart when you're baking, or especially on the grill. So if I was to freeze these, I would put them onto a baking pan or a baking sheet, not the one I used in the oven, and I would put them in my freezer just like this. And then in a couple hours, what they would do is they would be frozen solid, and then I could put them into a Ziploc bag, okay? If I was to grill these, I'm gonna make sure I do not put them straight on the grill because they will fall through the cracks, all right? So if you're gonna grill these, put them onto aluminum foil, spray them down with some canola oil or cooking spray, and then cook them on the foil, all right? I have a sheet or a pan that I use on my my barbecue. That's barbecue safe that I would use. The other option, of course, is to bake them. And you would put them onto a baking sheet with parchment and then flip them. And I gave you guys specific baking instructions in my recipes. Please make sure you check that. But yeah, this is it. I know this kind of looks like baby food. Again, one of those recipes that does not look good, tastes amazing, trust me. And I feel like your parents are gonna love it too, okay? So that's where I'm gonna end off. I am gonna be freezing these. Hopefully you guys show me pictures if you guys enjoy these. Stay cooking.